The north of England is a fairly hilly place, with the Pennine Range forming its spine. If you're travelling from the north to the south, or the south to the north, the highest point you can go is Yad Moss. There's a famous long-distance walk called the Pennine Way. The highest point of that is about 3,000 feet. Yad Moss is a large plateau that stands beneath those peaks. The North Pennines aren't a glamorous place, but they are interesting. They're home to the unlikely. It's a kind of world between. It stands on the edge of having serious winters. Will there be enough snow for winter sports? It's tantalisingly marginal. This dragtow belongs to Carlisle Ski Club. It dates from the 1970s and began its life in France. The resort went bankrupt and it was bought and erected here in 1988. It's sustained by a magnificent optimism and by lots of volunteers. It simply couldn't happen if people were paid a wage. All around the world, the unlikeliest of wheels are kept turning by a volunteer army of the grassroots. The games makers at the London Olympics were a fine example of that. And all the athletes from around the world would have had volunteers to thank in helping them reach those heights. I first came to the snow slope at Yad Moss about 10 years ago. I'd seen the pylons for the ski lift when I was on a bike ride. I was intrigued by them and thought they might be something to do with the army. The bike ride I was on was an extraordinary undertaking in itself. It was a ride of 1,400 kilometres or 875 miles. It shuttled between Edinburgh and London. Yad Moss was its highest and its coldest point. So I did wonder if I'd been seeing things. Things do seem very unlikely when you're doing something quite that unlikely. I was quite fit the first time I did that ride, but now I'm just quite fat. Ideally there'll be 45 pounds less of me by July. I'm getting on and so's my kit. Jan Ulrich won the Tour de France on a frame like this in the late 90s. Getting round in time is going to take a lot of help. There's a very similar ride in France where 5,000 people take part. 1,500 volunteers look after them. It's a fantastic display of French hospitality. We're partly repaying that hospitality in staging Edinburgh London. 1,000 riders will head this way this summer. We need at least 300 volunteers spread across 13 locations to help us realise the unlikely.